Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and today my co host Carrie Bennett and I are so excited that you're here because we're going to talk about these complex topics in circadian biology and quantum biology and make them accessible to the everyday person. So you're in for a real treat, and we're so excited to have you here. I want to take a moment to ask you, if you're listening over on Apple or Spotify, to leave the show a review to help get it out to more people. And if you're over on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and leave us a comment or a like underneath this video to, again, help get this show out to more and more people. Please check out also the show notes if you're on audio only or if you're on video. We have them under both all of my free resources and all of Carrie's free resources. We have co-taught a course called Quantum Fertility together and actually just wrapped up the Health Transformation Summit. We will be doing another one in a few months. So we have a lot of projects we're working on together, and we have a lot of free resources for you in the show notes that we would love you to check out if some of these topics in the show are interesting to you and you want to join either one of our communities or dive deeper, get some free resources, or even take a course. Make sure to check those out. Thank you again for listening or watching, whichever one you're doing. And let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. Daylight savings time. It is on the way. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is an important topic, I think, for people to know, because during the time shifts and time changes, there are indications that it's a greater likelihood for things like cardiovascular events, indicating that it's a stressor to the body if you don't know how to adapt accordingly.
Yes.
In the same way, like jet lag, right, could be a stressor to the body if you don't know how to adapt accordingly. So let's set people up for some success this time around.
Absolutely. And that's what I was just kind of doing a newsletter on this for my community. And this is how we know circadian health is key year round, not just this little time of the year. But when we start talking about daylight savings time, suddenly all the studies pop out about heart attacks, people gaining weight, people having depression, anxiety, mood disorders. These become exacerbated during daylight savings time. Why? Because there's a disruption in circadian rhythms, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so this just is additional proof that syncing our body's clock to the natural daylight cycle is essential. And while 1 hour can be disruptive, especially I think a lot of people have a lot harder time in the spring when we spring forward and lose an hour of sleep. It doesn't mean that you can't adapt very, very quickly to it. You just need to know how to do that, And so, should we start?
Yeah. And I think it's not that hard.
Mm-mm.
So we're not going to have like a super crazy long episode, but yeah, I think it's just knowing how to adapt and being circadian aligned. I think the first thing that I would tell people is you really need to make sure you're prioritizing morning light. And if you're up before the sunrise and doing things, just pop on a pair of blue blockers, right? It doesn't, because I always talk about this on the show because I talk to people every day. I'm probably on my Instagram way too much, like, let's be honest, but I was doing a post just the other day about a morning routine, and somebody was like, well, I have to do this, and this in the morning. And I don't even understand how you people can look at the sun or look at sunrise because I'm so busy. And I'm like, well, all you have to do is put on some blue blockers. And then when it's actually the sunrise time, just go outside or even just open a window, right? Like with no glass, but that it has to be a priority, it has to be a priority, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's like, okay, well, you have to reframe it. It's not that I don't have time to, it's like, I want to set my circadian rhythm like that. When I wake up in the morning, yes, I have 3 school lunches to pack and make sure everyone has their clean uniforms and underwear, and that, I've done my little, right, exactly. That I've done my little morning routines, as well. I got to pee, I got to drink some water. I got to get clothes for myself, brush teeth. There's a lot of things that go into morning, but what I'm always anticipating is sunrise. And sometimes sunrise happens in the middle of currently right now, we're shifting to the point where sunrise is going to start happening in the middle of these routines, right? So especially when we spring forward and it's going to be an earlier sunrise, I am going to, or is it going to be a later sunrise?
It'll be later for a little bit, and then
for a little bit,
and then as we move towards summer solstice, it'll get earlier. And I know earlier. I was talking with somebody about that
later night. Yeah, everything shifts so that we have more. So we have more light at the end of the day. But yeah, so so currently right now, sunrise is right around 7:10 for me, which is typically when we're getting everyone out the door, right? So my routine like this now looks like I keep those glasses on literally until after I back the car out of the driveway because the lights in the garage are obnoxious. And then before I, go inside and call all the kids and say, okay, come on, hop in the car, grab your backpacks. I have my glasses up on top of my head and I sky gaze for 2 minutes. And then there you go. Kids come out, we get in the car, we drive to school with the sunroof open. Comes a point while we're driving down the road where I roll the windows down and we all sky gaze east. It's at a red light, so don't be afraid, people. And yeah, that's how it is. Like that's my priority. I'm always looking for when sunrise is hitting, and it's not perfect. And yeah, it's busy, and it's sometimes I don't know, like very short in terms of the duration, but the consistency matters. And that's the same with this. It's like just start to be consistent with recognizing, even if I'm certain of this, right? Because of how powerful our mind is. Even if we start to just draw the awareness or the intention of wanting to start to sync up with sunrise, it starts to become part of our rhythm. Our body starts to recognize that. And then that also gets reinforced with the light signaling that we're talking about here.
Exactly. And why it's so important. Again, we have talked about this at length on the show. What happens in sunrise and during UVA, super crucial hormone pathways are signaled. The HPA, HPG axes are basically turned on. Cortisol is regulated a bit more by morning light signals. And that's the thing I was reading kind of in this mainstream news article is that, we're like, we don't really know what causes all these health problems during the daylight savings time week. However, we do know that there's a correlation with cortisol and all of these health conditions. And I'm like, well, that's why the morning sunlight is so important, right? And the blue blockers.
Yeah. Yes? That cortisol surge in the morning really is the primary signal that the day has started. And so many other pathways sync up to that. And if we delay that or if we don't get it, because likely what happens is we're going to get really incorrect surges with daylight savings because we'll maybe surge our cortisol a little bit when we look at our cell phone, then we might not actually ever sync up with the natural light. And then we're going to surge it maybe later in the day, right? It's just a very chaotic signaling that happens. That's that's exacerbated by the fact that we're losing an hour of sleep or we're shifting our day either one way or the other. And so that's really what I think it is. It's that cortisol is very much not in circadian alignment, and it becomes a big time stressor for the body because all the other body tasks that rely on that surge cannot sync up accordingly.
Exactly. So if you're not getting outside for morning sunlight, I can't imagine anybody listening to the show that wouldn't be after everything we've talked about. But if you're not, then this is a time when you really want to start doing it, especially to help support your body through this change. And then the next thing that we talk about also is the breakfast and stabilizing your blood sugar, I think, in reinforcing that circadian signaling, because of food being a Zeitgeber, I think that can be really, really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because our gut clocks are anticipating getting turned on because there's a hypothalamus pituitary pancreatic axis that gets kicked on during that sunrise cortisol surge. But that means then that we want to reinforce that by consuming breakfast. And so again, now all of a sudden you're reestablishing the start of the day. It is going to be an hour different than the day before, but you are reestablishing it and you're syncing your gut clocks to it by also consuming a meal. And that's what it is. It's about syncing these timing mechanisms to the same time, right? So that your body can all of a sudden say, oh, okay, I know what time of day it is. And all the rest of the things can fall into alignment.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can, if you really want to get nerdy with it, you can add a little temperature in there, put your face in a bowl of ice water, or if you're not wanting to do your face just yet, your wrists are a great thing to reinforce again, getting your body temperature to go up. Essentially, that's what we want in the morning. So I always say cold in the morning, warm in the evening if you want to do a warm shower, warm bath before bed so that the core temperature can drop and we can start, getting ready. We'll talk about the evening routine, but like that's another fun little thing you can add in there in the morning. If you have time, I know people busy doing stuff, but hey, could be another little secondary reinforcer.
Then I think I'm going to guarantee we're going to get questions on this because you're talking about cold raising body temperature and heat cooling it. So I'll let you, Sarah, I'll let you go into that into a little bit more detail. What are you talking about? Because if I'm putting cold in my body, aren't I getting cold?
No, well, technically, but it's a hormetic stress, right? And so it signals your body to warm up. That's what cold therapy does. And that's why it's so helpful and impactful is it's a stressor on your body and essentially tells your body warm up. When you actually get to the point where you're doing cold immersion and you never have to, but if you're somebody who wants to experiment with cold immersion, the most surprising thing to me once I started doing it was as long as I went up to the neck, right, and immersed these areas, the collarbone, back of the neck, where we have all that, brown adipose tissue, those are immersed. Once I'm in there and I'm still and I'm breathing and I'm calm, my body warms up. And I'm like, whoa, and so the hardest part is always getting in and then getting out because your body does this beautiful thing where it warms you. Right. And so, that's why the cold therapy, a little cold signal is a signal for you to raise your body temperature. And same thing with the heat. Your body wants to cool down and that's
dissipate the heat will cool the body temperature. And so we want our body temperature. Well, our body temperature will naturally start to do that in the morning for us. And so I also say that if cold is inconvenient for you, I also just like doing something that maybe causes you to generate a little more of your own body heat as well. Are you are you going on a power walk? Are you doing a couple of calisthenics? Are you doing just at least during this circadian time switch here where you're just setting things up and trying to align things up at the same time? So you're kind of reestablishing when first light is, and then all of the circadian practices that happen from that sunrise moment. So syncing those three things. So essentially what's going on with the light entering your eyes, food entering your stomach, and what your body temperature is, syncing that up first thing in the morning, right? When you just say those are the most important things right there.
Yes. Crucial. Yeah, absolutely. And then, anything you can do during the day is going to be helpful. Just getting outside, getting that natural light signal. If you are wearing blue blockers like the ones you're wearing, I know you get outside, you take breaks from them, and you don't just keep them on all day because we do need a little bit of blue to keep us awake and alert. So anything you can do is gravy to be outside and keep getting that signal.
I love a UVA rise walk. Like we prioritize that all. You and I really focus on that, especially in our communities. But I would say, especially during this transition, the 3 days to a week post time change, really try to, as many mornings as you can, get out there during that true UVA rise time, whenever possible, right? To get that signal, because that's another signal about the time of day, right? All of a sudden UVA appears. And again, we're syncing some timing mechanisms. So I know when sunrise is through my eye signaling, plus my gut and my body temperature. Now I know when UVA is. And that's a key chunk to establish in the morning, as many days as you can, to really reinforce this new circadian timing.
Exactly. Yeah. So anything we can do, again, to continue, what is it, the issue with daylight savings time? It is a disrupted circadian rhythm. You're literally losing an hour of sleep unless you're lucky enough to be in Arizona or Hawaii where they don't do this anymore. I wish they would quit doing it all across the US, but until that happens, knowledge is power. And these are things that are going to really be supportive of you. Another thing I recommend, I don't know if I'm sure you probably be on the same page with this, is kind of cutting just this, when you can. This will come out on Friday. So DST is Sunday. So maybe Friday night, Saturday night, move your dinner a little bit earlier as well. Because if, like we were talking about, eating phase shifts your circadian rhythm. And so if you can eat a little bit earlier, your body, and put on those blue blockers as soon as sunset happens. And if you can go outside for sunset, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, like that, I think can also be very supportive of this transition. I'm not someone who's like, sunset is non-negotiable. It's sunrise, that's non-negotiable. But I think sunset has its own unique set of benefits and can be supportive in this shift as well. And then as soon as it's over, popping on those blue blockers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just essentially reinforcing when the day ends. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, it'll shift by an hour.
Mm-hmm.
When all of a sudden you transition to Sunday, right? It'll shift by an hour, but it's still going to be an important thing to signal. And give this 2 or 3 days in my
Mm-hmm.
experience, and no, you're not going to notice a difference.
I agree. And those of us, I mean, I've been through this now for the last few years after being circadian aligned, like in this lifestyle. It's hasn't been like super, super hard. Cause we have the luxury of being able to be a little bit more flexible with our time schedules and, kids and all that stuff. So we're lucky we don't have like, hard start times. I mean, my daughter is supposed to be at school, but, um, we're the family that will just show up late, if they're very flexible with her and all the kind of stuff she's had going on with her health. And so it's not like if you're not here, don't come kind of deal. So it hasn't been super hard for me like it was in years past, because I think I'm just kind of so synced up this way. But I have a lot of empathy for those who do have to be at work at a specific time, or they have like, we'll see how my son does. He's been sleeping really well, but
It can be. I think he'll be fine.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're getting to school or work before sunrise, and then you just
Yes.
really have to prioritize the evening time, right? You have to think that the day has ended, put the blue blockers on, and then get to bed as early as your body lets you, right? And so that you just have to really be reinforcing that aspect of it, because you're not necessarily going to get the natural sunrise signaling, but it's okay, right? Don't what we always say, fear and stress is worse.
Yes.
So really do the best you can, and just know that there's a couple of things you can do to just allow this shift in time change to happen in a way that might be a little more graceful than it's been in previous years for you.
Yeah. And you can't let perfect be the enemy of good with this stuff. I mean, you really can't. You just do your best. And I love, some people have a really hard time kind of winding down at the end of the day. So I'm a huge fan of magnesium baths, Epsom salt soaks. If you can do those, like I'm in the magnesium bath every night. Like my bill for magnesium soak is what some people might spend on groceries. I can imagine, but I heavily rely on those because you're getting some nice infrared, you're getting that core temperature coming down, the relaxation, put a good book in the bathtub, clip on light, blue blockers, I'm good. So sometimes you do have to coach your body into winding down, and it does take some discipline, because I know like you've been working all day, you've been around kids all day, you've had stuff going on. You want to just like do what you want to do in the evening. I get it. But you will feel better if you prioritize these things. And there's like we said, there's a lot of health conditions that are tied to circadian rhythms in general.
Yeah, totally. No, I love that routine. It's like the same reason why when we have babies, we go through extensive bedtime routines, right? To get them wound down, because a kid's not just going to go from watching TV like adults try to do to all of a sudden going to bed, right? And so same thing, like if you can do things, especially this week, that don't involve a screen, even if it's just listening to music in a dim environment, or like you said, reading a real book. Imagine that, right? And so those are things, again, with circadian friendly lighting or blue blocking glasses, like those are great ways to get off of those things that are maybe more stimulating. Although I used to, when I was practicing the circadian stuff, there came a point in time where I was reading murder mysteries before bed.
Oh yeah. No,
I couldn't settle down. Like I was like, no, I got to be aware of what I'm reading too. So I sometimes tend towards the more boring stuff, right? Which, I don't know, like biophoton technology and energy and vitality right here that I have. It's an interesting book, but not that interesting that I'm going to want to stay up at night and read it for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah. I tend towards the more like inspirational kind of
nice.
uplifting books. Like I've been reading Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. I've been reading like more, more kind of
Yeah.
like uplifting,
Feel good
feel
book.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
also
those,
like
yeah, because
breath work. I love breath work stuff. Oh, you know what? Someone in my community, a lovely person in my community, also shared with us, and I have been playing around with this anytime I've woken up in the middle of the night, which doesn't happen very often. But it's called the military sleep method to fall asleep faster on
okay.
techradar.com. And all it is it's just practicing. If this is you, it's actually practicing a couple of things like breath, right? Focusing on a calm breath, which I think is very key. Focusing on relaxing your jaw, your head, basically your head, your hands, and your feet. Just relax, and your shoulders, relax them as much as possible. And then pretend like you're floating in a canoe, just
Oh.
like laying like somewhere or in a hammock, a dark hammock, and you're just laying there. You just picture that. And I've practiced it a couple times. Like my kids were up last night with pink eye stuff and I had to take care of. It's like, let me get back to sleep now. And it actually, I think it works. If anyone's interested, if you have a hard time either falling asleep, even doing the circadian stuff, or if you wake up and you want to try to go back to sleep, look up this military sleep method exercise. Because I was like, this
Mhm.
seems too good to be true. But I actually think if you practice it, this could be a very relaxing, easy way to coach your body to get back to sleep. Because again, it is about coaching, right? It's about, as opposed to
It
waking up in the
is.
middle of the night and be like, grocery list or work list or oh no, I'm now going to be up for 3 hours. Oh no, like it's like give yourself an exercise that you could focus on that allows your body to get just right back into that restful state.
Mhm. Yeah, I know it's so many things can creep in and you can't do anything about it when you wake up in the night. Like, and this intellectually, like you're laying there, like, can't fix that. That's going on. So you have to sometimes distract yourself. I meditate, I've got a little, a little bija mantra that doesn't mean anything. It's not religious. And my brain kind of takes that and will fall back asleep to that. I'll do alternate nostril breathing and just kind of focus on that. Or even I had Sachin, who was on the Health Transformation
Yeah, he's
Summit.
great.
Yeah, he was on the podcast. That'll be out tomorrow. So when this is out, it will have already been out a couple of days. So he did some fun guided breath work with me on the podcast. And I was like, oh, this is a thing people I think are overlooking as well as the breath aspect of our overall health. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that I think
Yeah,
any
we
tools
totally
we can
overlook how
use.
like that's empowering because it's ours
Mm-hmm.
and we can use it and manipulate it in a good way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime to
Yep.
influence. I know I'm certain he went over this, but influence all aspects of our health, including even like our brain chemistry. It's like,
Right.
a laughing breath. I never thought about like a laughing breath, versus like when you have a very calm, slow exhale,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things signal different pathways in the body. And so we can do so much through breath as long as we have the
Mm-hmm.
awareness. So,
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, all of this is just awareness and not kind of going into like doom and gloom and reading the headlines and knowing that you do have the ability, even if you do have a busy schedule, you've got a lot of stuff going on. There are variables that you can control and that you can shift. And, the food, temperature, blue blockers, those can really go a long way, I think, for people in preventing some of these issues that might pop up. Don't you think?
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just doing the best you can. So I'd be curious if you do this and if this is the first year you use circadian practices and you're going through daylight savings, dare we ask people to comment below about their experience with this, just to kind of see if it's helped them or not. But I've just found this time and again to be what I used to dread, I no longer dread because even if I wake up and I feel like, oh, I didn't have as much sleep as I normally do. It's like as soon as I go outside, especially prioritizing sunrise and UVA rise, it's like
Mm-hmm.
a jolt of coffee. And it's like, okay. And that's what happened to me this morning, even, right? When it's like, oh man, kids, I really could have used some more sleep. Then I know I
Yep.
need to get up
Oh
now.
yeah.
And the same thing, right? Being a mom and with a young
Mhm.
one, it's like, okay, I know as soon as I step outside and I prioritize that morning light,
Gonna help.
everything's going to sync up and I'm going to feel great. I mean,
Yep.
as good as I can, like very productive still, in spite
Yep.
of not. high quality sleep.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we can't always get it. And things are going to sometimes we have to get up in the middle of the night for children or
Yep.
pets. I have a lot of people in my group that maybe they're empty nesters, but now they have pets that wake them up. So
Totally.
the pets
Exactly.
will wake you up too. And it's like, okay, so now what do we do? And these are the things that I think can be really helpful. What else have we left anything out that could be helpful for people?
That's in terms of this daylight savings. I don't know. I feel like I mean, the last thing I would say that I think is important here is to also prioritize this next week. If you're not
Mm.
doing this, seasonal and local eating, because
Oh,
our
yes.
gut
Yeah.
microbiome is responding to this time change as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that is, it's time to shift. And again, food is another form of light. There's a lot of people on the internet who want to make it a religion or something to hide behind, but it is really just a form of light. And so it's information of the time of the day, the time of the year, all of that stuff. And so, yeah, start to maybe go to a farmer's market if they're open near you over the weekend, get something local, get
Mhm.
something seasonal, and let your body use that as information.
Yeah. I mean, and I know this isn't a food for everybody. So obviously there's nuance here, but my favorite thing is local eggs. They're really
Oh,
easy to
yeah.
find, right? We're finally getting to the point where we're going to start getting like local early spring garlic and
Mm-hmm.
onions and things like that, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just think about what you'd be able to find, and maybe even if it's and keep it simple too. I also find that
Yes.
during this
Mhm.
time change, just keep the food as simple as possible, and body syncs right back up. Your gut microbiome syncs up right very beautifully.
Absolutely. Yeah. And other things that can be supportive, red light therapy on the gut.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I think that can always be helpful. Grounding is another thing that, is informing your body of the temperature of the earth and temperature
Magnetism. Yeah.
outside. Yeah, exactly. And so it's another way to bring energy into the body that people are overlooking. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not one that somebody like goes out for sunset on purpose, but this time of year, I find it to be a lot easier because it's happening, after dinner
Hmm.
before the kids are going to bed. So you can make it a family
Yep.
thing, eat dinner, and then go for a nice sunset walk and
Yeah. Just play in the
create a routine.
yard. Yeah.
Yeah. Play outside in the yard. And again, it really is give barefoot if you can, or wearing some grounding shoes. Yeah, I think that it's great information for your
Yeah.
body and reinforce things.
That's perfect. Yeah. And I don't know, but we're lucking out here. I mean, we've been barefoot in February and now March more this year than we have
Yeah.
in so many years that I could remember. So yeah, like if you can go outside, that is a fun routine that we like to do as a family too. It's like, okay, get that sunset sinking, play
Mhm.
around, gather some electrons, get out that last little bit of wiggles. And then when you come
Yep.
inside, it truly is a time for your body to say, okay,
Let's
now I
go
can
take
kind
the
of,
bath and
yeah,
let's put the blue
blue
blockers on,
blockers.
dim the lights. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll talk more about the spring shifting. I know we're going to do an episode on
Melanin.
melanin
Mhm.
sometime soon
Yeah.
and one on the gut. So stay tuned. But yeah, I mean, just keep, like you said, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it.
Mhm.
If in doubt, just, do the thing that makes the most common sense.
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, do your best. Do your best and know that
Yeah.
in a short amount of time, circadian rhythms can shift. And so
Three
literally
days,
within,
right?
yeah, I was gonna say, exactly. Literally
Yeah.
within 48 to 72 hours, you're going to notice that it's not a big deal anymore. So no stress here. No stress. You got this.
Exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk more about shifting into spring. Maybe we can even do an episode on like some spring cleaning that we could do with the body, melanin. So yeah,
Yeah.
stay tuned
All that
and we
stuff.
will further the conversation.